Namaste, beloveds. This is Valerie Ames, also known as Mother with Wisdom. And this is a very, very spiritually expansive show. Um, it is coming from a very raw place, um, a place that is new ground, new seeds to be sown. Um, One of the things that's going to be flowing through, I wrote some things to cover, and I want to stay on point and on focus with those things. But I also want to open myself up enough to flow comfortably with the topic that's at hand. And um, that topic is war equals raw spirituality expanding. And the word raw, when you turn it the other way, reverse it, WAR becomes RAW, raw. And when something is raw, um, from a spiritual point, that means it's unclothed, it's brand new, it's newborn, it's has not been influenced yet. It is just like a baby coming raw from the womb. That baby is raw. It hasn't been impacted yet with anything. And so, with the war that's going on in the Ukraine, um, understand the earth grids there, understand the energy points that are there, understand the longitude, longitude and latitude that is there. Understand those that are born there in their natal birth charts and everything that is going on at this time. It's not coincidental, okay? And I'll leave that there and I'll get into um, the reason for this video. And when I get to the ending of um, the video, I have pulled 6 cards from the Abraham Hicks Vortex, out of the Vortex deck. And those cards will ground the information that I'm sharing with you. I have not looked at the cards. I only pulled them and put them in the order that they were pulled. So bear with me in all of this because I'm opening myself up as a vessel, as a container, as a channeler of information, however you need to receive that. I'm tuning in and I'm getting ready to broadcast what I have received. And I hope you receive it in an open manner. First, I have been instructed to speak a collective conscious awareness prayer. And let me just say this about this prayer, beloveds, and why it's necessary at this time to do it this way as a collective. As a collective consisting of many diverse individuals who are coming from multidimensional perspectives and spiritual conscious awarenesses from within their own genetic processing and programming and their life experiences and their observances of existence, existing as existence. All of this needs to be brought to the table as a meal and understood that this is breaking bread from a universal collective standpoint. And from that standpoint, from that stand as a conscious collective in establishing and opening up new ways of being, new ways of communicating, new ways of observing. We have to really be comfortable with the collective. And the way of being comfortable with the collective is to be comfortable as an individual, spiritual, conscious awareness being whose conscious awareness is beginning to expand. And you're aware, you're knowing, you're in the presence of the knowing of the actions you're able to observe, you're able to see, you're able to speak and communicate about the changes that are taking place around you and within you. And you're starting to realize that it is because of you that these changes are taking place. And when I say it is because of you, that means that you're aware of all the shifts of frequencies and spectrums within yourself. And you're starting to focus and notice the synchronicities of what's in your thoughts, what's in your feelings, and how they're being drawn together and how they're becoming cohesive and forming a fabric, a pattern that you can actually see and wear as a garment of protection. So you're no longer just worried about random things of your survival. You're starting to now see the unseen realm and bringing it into coherence that you're able to communicate with individually. And as you're doing this individually, you are able to see how collectively all the threads are woven together, that one does not operate without the other. And this is the new way of the collective coming forward. This is the rawness of the conscious awareness expanding beyond the old paradigm, beyond the old separateness. And if you're able to see these things, then you're able to see the changes and you're able to see the spirit of those who do not want change, who want things to stay the same. And Spirit has told me these ones are to be called CAIN'S children. CAIN'S children rely upon anger and fear and violence and the actual spilling of blood to get their way, to satisfy them, because they have an inferiority complex. It's like a Napoleon complex times 1,000. And they have to be seen, they have to be heard, they have to have things their way. They're very narcissistic. And they're very, what's the word? It starts with an N. Nepotistic. Nepotistic. Yeah. They look at things as being theirs and the ownership of everything. And this comes from the bullying stance of, and they go back to, well, this used to be ours and our family, and this was the way it was, and we need to bring it back there because then I was important and then I was recognized and now I'm not. And it needs to go back to that way. And these are the ones. This is the spirit, that is the essence, that is the frequency, that is the thought, that is the spectrum of that energy. And that energy is one that's coming to an end. And it is only ending because your conscious awareness is saying, that's enough of that. And we need something new. And that has not worked. All of that murder, all of that war, all of that violence, all of that killing, all of that trying to claim land, make boundaries and divisions and this and this and that, it has not served the collective. It has not served the collective spiritual conscious awareness. It has not served. It has not served in our continuing advancement other than a polarity, other than the contrast of what we don't want, other than the contrast of what is not working, other than the contrast that this is a foreign language to our spirits. It is not right. It is not healthy. It is not wholesome. It is not inclusive. It is not universal and it is not spiritual. It is on the lower spiritual polarities. And we have existed long enough that we are ready to rise above that. We're ready to go upwards. We're ready to ascend. We're ready to grow. We're ready to break new grounds. As individuals who are secure within our own spirituality, of our own awareness, of our spiritual expansion, through our own perception and ideas and ideologies, principles and principalities and everything else, allowing the diversity, allowing the truth to be perceived, allowing the truth to be discerned through unconditional love and not judgment. Discernment is the wisdom and the grace and the mercy to say, and the compassion to say, okay, this seems better than that. I'll go this way. That doesn't mean that you judge the way you don't go, or that's not for you at this moment. It's not about judgment. It's about discernment. What is best for you? That's your conscious awareness being awoken, being conscious and connected to that self that is thinking beyond your ego, beyond your mind, beyond your hormonal feelings, beyond the outer chaos that's trying to mold you. All of this comes from within. And this is where your hollow ground is. This is where your sacred ground is. This is home base. And it's from this point that you began to expand your conscious awareness by every single thing you observe, not just with your physical eyes, but with your spiritual eyes as well, with your instincts and with your intuition. And you allow these to guide you as if you are blind and you can't trust the things that you see because there's so many hidden things. When you only look from your two physical eyes. Let me get into it. So I've explained the reason for this, excuse me for fidgeting, beloveds. I've explained the reason for the collective conscious awareness prayer. And so now I'm just going to pray for humanity and for the earth spirit and for all those that dwell in the universe right now and whose focus is unconditional love on the planet Earth, watching us once again evolve through the pain and suffering to get to another level. It's just like having birth pains and the shedding of blood, the shedding of cells and tissues, and the breaking open, and everything that happens to bring forth new incarnated life. Great Spirit, Almighty Jehovah, Almighty Creator, Great Mother, I call upon your presence. I call upon your unconditional love. And I call upon your spiritual integrity. I ask that we, your creation, your children, your manifested selves of yourself, are able in this moment, in this present moment, to integrate with the greatest parts of you, with the highest frequencies of you, and that we are able to tap into the wisdom and the unconditional love that is you individually, and that we do it in such a way, Great Spirit, that it translates collectively, not just across the planet Earth, but across the universe and the galaxy as you have intended it to. Great Spirit, Help us in our birthing and rebirthing of ourselves, in our resurrection and our rebaptism in your light, in your awareness, in your love, in your design for us that has never wavered, in your will and your faith in us as your children to overcome whatever obstacle is put in our place, to grow from it, to grow through it, to grow around it like water. Let us know that we are everything and nothing. And because of this, there is nothing that cannot be conceived and created and manifested through us, individually and collectively. Let us know that we are the rays of the sun, and when we come together, it is our light and our love that reflects your desires of expansion, of unlimitedness, beyond space and time, multiverses. All of this opens up when we began to allow ourselves to be aware of our connection to existence as existence itself. And when we allow this great spirit, let it wash over us and let it enter every cell of our being, and let us know without a doubt that we give birth to change. We give birth to change. And that is what the seed and the seeding is all about. Let us embrace the wisdom of the seed and the seeding, knowing that by universal laws, what we sow, this is what we shall reap. Let us consciously understand this, and from this awareness, this spiritual conscious awareness, let us act and enact and create thy kingdom that is to come upon this earth, that was seated so very long ago in the beginning, and that has not changed. It is earned. It is earned through the humbleness and the humility in the foundation of what unconditional love is all about. It's about the expansion of conscious awareness from a spiritual perspective carried out through flesh. Thank you, Great Spirit. Thank you, Great Mother. Thank you, Great Father, for all that you have allowed us to rise up from. continue blessing us in such a manner. And may we know with each trial, with each tribulation, with each jubilation, that it is unconditional love that leads us. In the name of all the beings that you have sent forth in your name, in your spirit, to bring us forward to this moment, I bow humbly and I thank you. In Jesus' name, the latest collective conscious awareness, I thank you. In Jesus' name, amen. And for those of you who want to speak about the alphabet and this letter and this and that and that and this, beloveds, before speech, before sound, that which is. No matter what name you give it, is spirit. It has no name. If you give it a name, that name comes from you. It is what it is. And it is all and it is nothing at the same time. So don't get hung up on human sounds, human phonics, human words. Understand that it is love, unconditional love. And if you cannot identify it by that, it is not spirit, okay? It is not by a word. It's not by a figure, by an image. It is by a spiritual force. It is by unconditional love that you recognize and test spirit, by the spirit. Okay. Explain raw spirituality expanding. Raw spirituality expanding. What comes to me to really show you this is the understanding and the understanding. And beloveds, I'm going to close my eyes simply because it flows easier that way for me. So just allow. But I'm here. My presence is here, and I'm very connected with this reading, with this video, with this sharing. Okay. Explain raw spirituality expanding. How they want me to share this with you is with the understanding of I'm looking for the word, beloveds. Conception. There we go. Understanding conception. Understanding conception not just with human life, but with plant life, with spiritual conception. Okay? Spiritual conception brings forth the manifestation of physical conception. So everything that has materialized in form was conceptualized spiritually and conceived into your design, into each cell, and was forged together spiritually to be of optimum benefit to the spiritual process of your conscious awareness expanding. They've given me the greatest gift is for a spirit to incarnate through a woman, through a seed, through the man's seed and the woman's ovaries, through that connection, through that unity, through that unification of worlds, because that man and that woman, they have their own DNA programming and blueprints and structures and patterns and principles from all the different principalities of the universe. And they come together to incarnate, to form this fabric of this being that spiritually incarnates and wears this flesh. Okay? And that is all knowing. Before it learns a language, it is still very much connected to the universe through the umbilical cord. And this being, this incarnation, this seed, we are shown as it begins to expand its own conscious awareness in itself from a single cell organism into a multi-celled being. Cells, organs, tissues, systems, being. And that nervous system, a highway, a map. And the design of those nerve tissues is regulated by the highways and the information and the blueprint that came together to make this incarnated being, this shell for the spirit to incarnate into. It wove this fabric of flesh together. And it is this conscious awareness that is born. And beloveds, technology may assist in the birthing process, but it can never duplicate the birthing process. It can never dynamically change or shift the design from its own expandability, its own spiritual expansion, because it is raw. It is raw material. And this raw material is being crafted and molded by the spiritual collective. And that's what happens to that child once it's born. The spirit of this world gets a hold of this child, this incarnated child, this raw material, this raw clay, this raw flesh, this raw conscious awareness, and it begins to mold it into its image. But if we have not, as a conscious collective, molded the spirit of this world into our collective vision, then we have mismanaged the process. We have not graduated. We have not matured to the caretakers, to the parents of what we need to be. And this is why wars happen, because it is the fight over the raw material that has come through, the conscious awakening that has been born. And the war wants to take it back and mold it back to the old. No, we have to hammer it and mold it back until what it was. And that's the bully force. And those that are conceptualizing, no, we want to bring something new. We want to create new and higher and expand it and allow everyone in and just address everything and see what grows. This is what is at war with itself. This is the consciousness itself being shown to us at war with itself. That's what's meant by the scripture. We are not at war with flesh, but with power and principalities. It is also goes to the scripture of we don't do what we want to do. You know, spiritually we know what to do, but flesh calls us and we blot out the spiritual and we go straight to what the flesh desires and wants. Even though we know within ourselves, don't drink that soda, don't eat that. You know what that is. That's not even real ingredients. Go eat a piece of fruit. No, I want the Funyun, the hot spicy Cheeto Funyun with all that fake I want that. And it is this tug of war that is taking place. And so I hope that has given you enough of an explanation of what I mean by the raw spirituality expanding. And I'm just going to go deeper into this. And beloveds, all of this is just arising within me. And that means that you're getting it very raw. You're getting it very unedited. Nothing is being added or subtracted from it. And it is only going to develop itself and grow and expand as time proceeds outward. So it'll reveal itself more. Through me, I advise you to stay in contact with my Facebook page. If you're interested in spirituality expanding, if you're interested in truly knowing yourself as a spiritual being and truly expanding your conscious awareness, then I suggest you align yourself with those spiritual beings who are open enough to receive and to receive, to transmit, to transmute, and to transform and translate a lot of this data and metadata that is being downloaded through each of these astrological changes that we're going through, because we're being taken to another destiny with each of them. And just see whose voice, whose message, whose presence, whose energy resonates with you easiest or most, or who you can discern the most from. Who feeds you the best? What flavors you can identify with, whether it's the way they speak or present themselves, or the medium through which they are disseminating information, whether that's through tarot, astrology, ministry, spirituality, writing, whatever music, art, whatever, it's all spiritual. You're given a spiritual buffet to discern, to feed your conscious awareness so it can expand. Remember, you're breastfeeding it. So this is a new raw being. And this new raw being is the current, latest aspect of you. It is your conscious awareness. You are responsible for it. Okay. Moving on to point number 3, the observation of Cain's children. If you don't know who Cain is, read the book of Genesis. Google it. Google it. Google who Cain is. Google who Tubal Cain is. Tubal. Tubal Cain and Cain. Understand and understand the polar opposites, the frequencies of Cain and Abel. Cain murdered Abel. Abel was his brother. Cain was agriculture. Abel was animal husbandry. He was more with the animals than he was with the growing of, let me get this right, beloveds. Okay. Abel, with the spirit of the planet Earth, the Earth Mother, brought forth agriculture, fruit, vegetables. He sowed and tilled the land. He worked with the land, okay, to produce offerings. Abel worked with what was already sown on the land. He worked with the animals. He worked in the breeding of the animals. He worked in the producing of organic life, through mammals, through the feeding of that animal, through the caretaking of that animal, through the relationship with the animal kingdoms. Okay? Understand the two spiritual natures that you're dealing with. One is dealing with other animals and the spiritual nature of these animals and their connection to the earth already. Okay? Cain just has a connection with the earth. And his connection with the earth is making her grow his seeds, what he wants her to produce. Understand the different temperaments and discern not just the personalities, but the natures of these two beings, these two spiritual beings. Okay? Understand the connection and the disconnection. The connection with Mother Earth as a spirit being. The disconnection of her being one with everything. Cain was an abusive husband, agriculture. He was not at one with what he brought forth. He did it through violence. He did it through making the earth mother, okay, raping and plundering and so forth and so on. And Abel's spirit was different. His was animal husbandry. His was caring, love, nurturing. So when they brought what they had produced and offered it, one was accepted and one was not. And that was based upon the spirit of the offering. Understand, you have to, spiritual discernment sees spirit. It doesn't see the fleshly. It didn't see the animal. It didn't see the plants. It saw the spirit that went into producing that, because that spirit was born. What spirit are you expanding in whatever you're doing? What are you giving birth to? What are you offering the Great Spirit? What kind of offering are you offering the Great Spirit? What kind of spirit, out of what spirit did you create and are you giving? So understand from that point of view, okay, who Cain was and what he presented and what he represents, and how jealous he was of Abel's being accepted and being preferred, because it was an offering of love, of unconditional love. It is what unconditional love had brought forth, had expanded. And it was the best that was given as a presentation, as a saying, thank you. Cain's was not. And because of that, he killed his brother out of a jealous rage, spilled blood into the earth. And from this blood lust, okay, the lust to spill blood brought forth war. And it brought forth this conscious awareness of war, so that wherever he went before God and said, well, everybody's going to kill me now because I've done this. So what you going to do to stop people from killing me? Because all he knew was bloodlust. He knew if it was in him, it was going to be in others. And his bloodlust was going to come against their bloodlust. What you going to do? I'm going to mark you, Cain. I'm going to mark you. And so, what was the mark of Cain? It's the Ouroboros came to me the other day. It was his own self-destructive attitude that he can't get rid of. That's what marked Cain. No matter what century, no matter what civilization, no matter how sugar-coated it is, no matter how glamorous it appears, self-destruction is going to self-destruct. Because that's what it is. And there's an opposite force of self-destruction, which is self-creation. Those who arise from the self-destruction, and those who cannot see past that, those who hold on to the animosity, the self-hate, the anger, the narcissistic values, the narcissistic vices and virtues as their right, because everyone else is what? Inferior. So this is Cain's children. And what this raw spirituality, expanding conscious awareness is saying is that you need to be able to observe with discernment, not judgment. Judgment belongs to God. Vengeance belongs to God. It's not yours. So don't you worry about that aspect of anything, because that's self-fulfilling. That is already built into the cake, baby. You ain't got to worry about how much baking powder. That's already a little leaven. It's already, Cain already didn't put that in all of his stuff, okay? Don't you worry about that part. You worry about observing and being able to discern. Is that of unconditional love, or is that of Cain and his children? Because Cain and his children don't want nothing but self-destruction. Headed for self-destruction. We're headed for self-destruct. That's all it wants. You have to expand your conscious awareness as an incarnated being, spiritual being, valuing your spiritual beingness above your physical beingness, your human beingness. You have to raise that spiritual beingness above that. You have to want that more than you want the human beingness, the stature, stuff of a human being. You have to understand that it does not measure with the spiritual unseen wealth. But you have to choose. And you have free will to choose. Observation of Cain's children. I would call Trump and I would call Putin. I call them out as Cain's children. I call out those who stand out in history, in civilization, in every story that has been given to you, shown to you, told to you, portrayed in art, in signs and symbols, for your perception to observe the spiritual frequencies that you choose and the spectrums of them that you allow within your life. There is no perfection, beloveds. If there was going to be perfection, then there would be no room for conscious expansion. If something is perfect, it doesn't need to expand its conscious awareness, or it's so perfect in its beingness that it allows for conscious expansion. That's what makes it perfect. Its ability to expand, its ability to change, its ability to mature from that infancy to that maturity, to that crone, to that wisdom, to that wise one. Okay, I think I've explained that portion enough of observation of Cain's children. And beloveds, Cain's children is not outside of you. Okay, humanity has mixed to such a great degree that, that Cain is within you. We call it ego. So don't just think it's, oh, you CAIN'S child and I'm not. Oh, no, no, no. That's you missing the whole point of what I'm saying if that's where you're going with this. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you got to recognize every aspect of yourself. You've got to recognize that you're at war with yourself. You're at what is at war? That old self wants to kill the new self. Do you understand that? What you see Putin and Trump doing with their coup attempts is to keep that old shit, that old trade, that old spirit of trade and commerce and money and privilege and narcissistic, misogynistic patriarchy. They're trying to keep that alive. And this that is born now, it's newborn. This new conscious awareness that, well, a child can be, their sexuality is not binary. There's some children that are born like that. Hermaphrodites are born like that in every situation. It's not finite. That our awareness needs to change with that. Because these are beings. And if these are spiritual beings being born this way, it's not just a thinking. The old wants to control the narrative. It doesn't want a new narrative because it'll become outdated. It'll become replaced. Why is this happening? Because we no longer value the elderly, the old wisdom. We no longer value it. We want to put it out to pasture and forget it. And that energy is saying that's what's going to happen to me. So no, I don't want to be put out of order. I don't want to be done with. I don't want to die. I don't want to go out of your conscious awareness. So how do you reassure that? How do you bring this energy into the fold? With unconditional love and conscious awareness of what aspect it serves the conscious awareness by allowing it to serve its purpose. There's room for you. We honor you. But you have to honor change. But there's still room for you at the table. And this is the new reality. That we're going to respect the old and we're going to respect the new. And then we're going to understand the bond between them, the thread between them. And it's not about having one or the other. They complement their spectrums, their frequencies. Okay. Number 4, the Lord's Prayer as an invocation. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Forgive me my trespasses as I forgive those who trespass against me. And of course, there's more to it, beloveds. But I want you to focus on those particular words. And the word invocation came, not just prayer. When you invoke, when you speak something into being, when you call it forth, you're invoking it. What are you invoking when you say this prayer? What are you invoking when you ask, as above, so below? What is your intention with those words? What is your spiritual intention? What is your conscious awareness asking for, invoking, giving your God's breath to? What are you breathing into? What are you bringing forth? The original design. God's original design didn't change. It's still working itself the way it was supposed to. So you're asking for conscious awareness of that process. You're asking to be aware of what is taking place in the cycles and seasons. You're also asking for the process to come to a completion, but understand and understand that when you are eternal, there is no such thing as time. And there are so many cycles and seasons, like there are grains of sand in the ocean, and like there are the stars in heaven. And that billions of years go into weaving the fabric for the final outfitting of the conscious awareness to expand even beyond its last peak, its last spiritual peak. So have the patience, beloveds. And understand, even if when you see things and you don't know what else to say, use the Lord's Prayer. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Forgive me my trespasses as I forgive those that trespass against me. That is discernment. That is spiritual discernment. That is spiritual discernment. That's relying and putting your trust and your faith in God's plan that was seated long ago. Excuse me. One moment. Okay. So that's the Lord's Prayer as an invocation. Learn to use it. Learn to use it when you see certain things taking place. Learn to use it as a tool of grounding yourself into the moment of whatever is going on at the time. Learn to use it as your rod and your staff. Learn to lean upon that Lord's Prayer and what it truly means. Number 5, the empowerment of self-consciousness. Once you achieve your conscious awareness to the point of you're watching it grow, and you're watching. When you do something, you're aware that it's contracting, and then you do something else and it expands. It becomes like breathing to you. It becomes natural and involuntary. Nobody has to tell you to breathe. This empowerment of self-consciousness means that you are aligned and you are in tune with the processes that are going on in your own raw spirituality expanding. That you are no longer the old being, but you are now a new being. And that this new being is having to be able to discern things from a whole different perspective, from a new perspective, from a new understanding of itself, from an understanding of unconditional love and an awareness of what the illusion or the outside world is all about, what CAIN'S children is all about, and how the interplay and how all of that goes. So when you see signs and signals and colors and times and different things that alert your spirit that there's spiritual things going on, that there's spiritual changes happening, that there's a spiritual shift or a spiritual frequency or a spiritual presence that has entered into the conscious awareness expanding, you become empowered by this. And the more you become empowered by this way of knowing, this spiritual conscious expansion, the less you are intimidated by the thought processes of CAIN'S children. The less you are attracted to the thought processes of CAIN'S children. The less you feel that you have to judge CAIN'S children. Remember, it's not our place to judge them. It's our place to discern the path for our spirit to go. And remember that what's in them is in us. And the choices that we make are the choices we make. We need to discern that. And the choices they make are the choices they make. And no one can make your choice for you. Not your mother, your father, your lover. No one. Your guru. No one. You're the only one who can do this. Number 6. The individual and the collective spirit force. Understand, beloveds, that you're not in this alone. That just as I was speaking of the very DNA fabric skin that you were sewn together to and put inside of to incarnate into, to actively interact with this world, that is also your individual and collective spirit. Understand that. That is the seen and the unseen within you. And the seen and the unseen within you attracts through the universal laws of magnetism and polarities and through the universal laws. Okay? Everything that's going to occur within your existence is already regulated, is already designed. You just have to become consciously aware of that so that you can allow your spirit to guide you rather than your human mind, your human ego, your fleshly desires, because those are at war with each other. 8. Choosing unconditional love over conditional love from a narcissistic bullying perspective. Beloveds, you've got to be able to use the scales of justice, use the scales of ma'at, and you've got to have unconditional love on one side and narcissistic bullying perspective on the other, whether you call that fear, whatever you call it. These are polar opposite frequencies. There's a big spectrum in between them. There is a lot of gray areas and shadow areas around them, but you have to become proficient in allowing your spiritual discernment to hold these two forces in balance. Everything in moderation is allowed. So don't get on you're a sinner, the whole bad, don't get on that train. Spirit said everything in moderation. In moderation to your spirit. Know your spirit before you try to heap everything on it, because your spirit is not everybody else's spirit. And what may be moderate for you may not be moderate for someone else. Stay in your lane. Stay in tune with your spirit. Do what is moderate for your spirit. Okay? What balances your spirit, your conscious awareness of your spiritual being. Narcissistic bullying perspective. That means someone has to control you. They tell you how to be. And you have to say, no, that's not me. That's not who I am. And I have value. I have worth. My spirit has value. My spirit has worth. You're not in charge of me spiritually. You're not in charge of my spirit. I didn't incarnate as your servant, your spiritual servant. I have only one spiritual master, and that is my highest conscious awareness that guides and leads me. Anything lower than that, I'm at war with. I struggle. And I do it with unconditional love for me. Not from fear of you, not from hate of you, but for unconditional love of me. With compassion for myself, with compassion for you, with compassion for the expanding conscious awareness of what is raw, what is newborn. I'm aware of that. And I'm not trying to shape or mold it into my image. Nine, beginning to consciously envision your raw spirituality expanding inside, outside, above, and below in all directions, radiating unconditional love like a sun. As you began to put these sides of yourself together and be able to see your spiritual fabric and what it's becoming, and your hemming and cutting things off and away, and you're adding and you're subtracting and you're editing and you're designing your spirit, this new raw spiritual energy that has never existed from your perspective and your view before, and that is brand new to you and to this age that you're existing in. The more you began to relate and identify yourself with this being, this spiritual beingness, it begins to radiate from you in all directions, in what you're manifesting, in what you see and what comes before you, for you to choose whether, am I going to look at this or am I going to look at that? Do I want to see a horror movie or do I want to see a romantic comedy? It's all up to you of where you want to focus your attention and what you're looking to broaden within yourself, what you're feeding your soul at this moment, what you need to learn and grow from. If you look at my Facebook page, I've shared several movies and I posted several scriptures that I was led to post with those particular movies, because those particular movies evolved and enveloped those scriptures from those scriptures, at least from my perspective, of receiving, transmitting, transforming, transmuting. So, beginning to consciously envision your raw spirituality expanding inside, outside, above, and below in all directions, radiating unconditional love like a sun, means that you're able to not only radiate outwards, but that you're also able to receive from the sun, from what's being radiated to you spiritually. So it's an exchange going on. It's a union going on, that you're consciously aware of this union. And you're aware of how beneficial it is. Let me see if that'll make it better. No? Well, it is what it is. 10. Preparing the spiritual consciousness of the earth and all her beings, seen and unseen beyond space and time, for the expansion of raw spirituality. Preparing the spiritual consciousness of the earth and all her beings, seen and unseen, beyond space and time, for the expansion of raw spirituality. And this came to me, again, several days ago, through the crook and the flail, through the understanding of the architecture and the structuring of the galaxy, the universe, the planets, the constellations of stars, how everything is interwoven and how everything influences everything, and how the cycles and seasons and the rotations, the wheels within the wheels, how they actually work to manifest a particular age. And this particular age has its own rhythm and has its own way of existing, because it has existed many times. This age that we're going in is the Aquarius age. It is very fluid. It is very fluid. It's adding the new into the old, and you're expanding conscious awareness. So this is what preparing the spiritual consciousness is all about. And in preparing the spiritual consciousness, is enforcing it, instructing it, enabling it to observe conscious spiritual expansion happening, and to be able to know what you're seeing. When we're seeing Putin and all of this, and some are calling it World War III, knowing that you're seeing a reenactment of a play that the earth has seen many times before. These are old energies. These are ancient energies. Once again, saying, no, we don't want to change. No, no. And we're going to bring, nothing to see over here. Nothing to see over here. This is what it is. We're going to bully you. This is what it is. If you don't do this, we're going to shed your blood, and this is going to be it. And your children, this is going to be it. So you better kowtow. And you have to, if you want your freedom, if you want your spiritual conscious awareness, your freedom, your jubilee from this oppression, from this ideology and psychology of this narcissistic, abusive bully who thinks he owns you, but who is so full of fear of not being relevant. You have to stand up and you have to say, I am whole. I am holy. And you have to bring this new conscious awareness into a bigger sun, a bigger radiation than that bullying radiation. That has to be in the shadow instead of being the dark sun. It has to be reduced to a little shadow, what it is. It has to be put back in its place. It has to be reduced back to its size. It has to be seen. It has to be known as less than, not the illusion that it's casting and spelling everybody with. The illusion. Look into this mirror. This is the greatest mirror. Look at your reflection from this mirror. No. That's a lie. And that's from the father of the lie. And I don't want anything from it. I don't want anything to do with it. That's not love. That's self-destruction. (11) Spiritual agriculture, architecture, from the indigenous point of view, seeding the earth with raw spirituality so that its expansion can be observed with the wisdom of discernment from the cultivation and maturation of grace. So, beloveds, we have come down to number 11. And number 11 is about everything that we have spoken of in this video. It is bringing it all to the words, to the recognition, to the realization of what is taking place is actually number 11, the doorway, the gate. Spiritual agriculture and architecture from the indigenous point of view. The indigenous point is spiritual connection, spiritual collaboration, spiritual allowing this to be spirit-led. Okay? Understanding that everything has a spirit to it. And being guided, being able to communicate with that spirit through unconditional love. Seeding the earth with raw spirituality so that its expansion can be observed with the wisdom of discernment. Seeding the earth with raw spirituality. So we're getting ready to throw new seeds of conscious awareness. These new seeds of conscious awareness have arrived and are to be looked at as I am not my thoughts or my feelings. I am my spirit, that I incarnated as a spirit that is ancient, that is beyond space and time, that cannot be seen in this form other than through my presence and my actions. Not in what I wear, not in how much money I got in the bank, not in who I came from, but what I represent. I represent the spiritual aspect of unconditional love. And if you can see me, that's what you see. That's what you will see. And the perfected state of that is it's ever growing and ever expanding because it's real. Just like the sun, the moon, and the stars. So that its expansion can be observed with the wisdom of discernment for the cultivation. So we're expanding, we're seeding the earth with raw spirituality so that what grows, what can be expanded, what grows from that can be observed with the wisdom of discernment for the cultivation and maturation of grace. So what you're seeing growing from these seeds has happened because of the expansion of grace. Grace getting older, grace being more recognizable, grace being more the collective force of source. And that is going to do it for that portion. The last portion, like I said, I was told to pick 6 cards, and I chose 6 cards because Spirit said one for each world. And this is the 6th world as I'm looking at, as it's being given to me. So each one of these cards represents the world from original creation until this conscious awareness expansion, this raw spirituality being born once again, presenting itself into our conscious awareness again. The first one, number 2, that which is like unto itself is drawn. That isn't about creation, and it's number 2. Everything that you perceive is vibration, and the life you are living is your vibrational interpretation. The powerful law of attraction is at the root of everything you experience, and the never changing, always accurate promise of this law is that which is unto itself, that which is like unto itself is drawn. So the whole point of this video was raw spirituality, new spirituality, conscious spirituality of the individual and the collective. So, that which is like unto itself is drawn. So that's the invocation of the prayer. Bring as above, so below. Thy kingdom come. When you give thought to something, you begin to attract the attraction process of the essence of that subject into your life experience. Once you have activated a thought vibration within yourself by giving attention to the subject, the progression of expansion occurs. Boom. Bam. Next, number 30. Our varied behavior adds to the planet's well-being. When you remember that nothing can come into your experience without your vibrational invitation of it, and when you remember that the varied behavior of others adds to the balance and the well-being of your planet, even if they offer behavior that you do not approve of, and that you do not have to participate in the unwanted behavior and will not unless you give your attention to it. You become more willing to allow others to live as they choose. And so, beloveds, as a collective, when you address the actions of that bully, you are allowing others, the majority, to live in the way that they choose. And understand the war, as mentioned earlier in this video, and the raw spirituality, the juxtaposition of those two words, war and raw. War and raw. Old and new. The next card, number 26, which is an 8. I will not try to control the uncontrollable. Now I'm looking at that eye and I'm seeing the green eye with jealousy trying to control something, and take yourself out of that loop. God is in control. You are not. Great Creator is in control. From day one, when he seeded every creation into being, it was already controlled. Okay? We want to reach the place where you are willing, not just willing, determined, not just determined, but eager to let go of the need of control of things that are uncontrollable, like what anybody else is doing, and give your undivided attention to the only thing you can control, which is how you feel in any given circumstance. So, instead of giving our attention to what Putin is doing through his feelings, look at our feelings. What is arising in us because of the circumstances? What are we feeling? What are we observing? In other words, we want you to leave this moment saying, I've decided that I'm going to take life as it comes, and I'm going to do the best that I can do in the midst of what I'm doing. So, in the midst of war, being raw is the best that you can do. Being raw, being new, expanding your conscious awareness, being more connected to the collective as the collective individually. As everything and nothing eternally. That Ouroboros, I see that there, eternally. That eye, you can call it the snake eye if you want to. I'm going to do the best that I can do in the midst of what I'm doing. 43, which is a 7. Why do I want the relationship I want? War, raw, old, new. Look at the colors. Look at the lines that are connecting and dissecting and constructing and reconstructing. There's so much there, beloveds. Not just the words, but the energy and also the number itself, 743. Think about what you want in a relationship and why you want it. Look for those around you who are experiencing good relationships and feel appreciation for them. Make lists of the positive aspects of those good feeling relationships you have spent time with. In fact, one of the fastest way to make your way to a wonderful relationship is to find any subject that consistently feels good, even if it has nothing to do with relationships, and focus on that. And beloveds, right now, don't look to the illusions to give you a mirror of what a good relationship is. And when I say that, beloveds, I mean the Hollywood couples, I mean the music couples, the industries, people that have come together to make money or for an agenda or to be a power couple or something of that nature. That's not what you're being asked to look at as into a relationship that you want to consider or call of the highest frequency. Because those relationships, you don't know what's going on behind closed doors. You don't know if it's real or not. In fact, one of the fastest way to make your way to a wonderful relationship is to find any subject that consistently feels good. And even if it has nothing to do with relationships, focus on that. Everything in moderation, as was said before, beloveds. This is conscious awareness. If you haven't found it yet, that means that it's new or that you're looking for something new and not old. Allow it to be not only conceptualized, but conceived within you. Next, number 4. Every relationship I establish is eternal. Wow. Wow, wow, wow. Look at that card. Look at that card. See the light and the dark. See the war and the raw. See the middle. That unseen is the middle, a space in between there. Don't just look at the two polar opposites. Understand that there is also the middle ground. It is our desire that you come to remember that every relationship is eternal, and that once it has been established, it is part of your vibrational makeup forevermore. And that in your powerful now, where all that you have become converges with all that you are now becoming, You hold the power to create. And so your observation of a situation, wanted or unwanted, no matter how remote you believe yourself to be, makes you a co-creative partner of the experience. Meaning, we are co-creators of the war. We are co-creators of a Putin and a Donald Trump. We are co-creators of these different parties, these different states of being, these different countries. We are part. We are co-creative partners. We are co-creative partners in what happens next. And last but not least, card number 52, which is also a 7. Feeling negative emotion means I'm launching requests. Feeling negative emotions means I'm launching requests. And that word launching comes out to me as I think of war and what is being launched from Putin's side negatively. Feeling negative emotion means I'm launching requests. What is Putin requesting? As more people observe hardship and strike a tense, resistant pose, and therefore disallow their own well-being, others use them as their reason to do the same. And in a very short time, a very negative pattern of resistance can sweep through your population. The good news is this scenario is that in every moment that every person is feeling negative emotion about the economic state, vibrational requests for more abundance are launched, and those requests are heard clearly and responded to immediately by source. That is why they had me go into all of this about the raw spirituality, the war and the raw, the expansion, the prayers. I was wondering why it wanted me to start it off with a prayer, collective conscious awareness prayer. And then 4, the Lord's Prayer as an invocation. And these random cards that were drawn just summed it all up. Because the more you sit there and the more you witness these negative things, the more you give birth to raw new ideas that you want better than this. And that is what you're sending. And that is what's coming. So as you're looking at these things taking place, understand prayers are being answered. What's the prayer? Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. This is the expanding conscious awareness that is taking place, beloveds. So keep allowing your conscious awareness to expand and observe the things that are taking place. And the crazier they seem, understand that's the falling in place and that it's happening very fast. And that's why it's no longer, that's why it's looking so crazy. Because you're seeing it all happen right in front of your eyes right now. It's not taking thousands of years, centuries of years, hundreds of years, aeons. It's all happening. Boom, 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 boom. Because our conscious awareness has gotten to such a spiritual peak as individuals and as collectives that it is happening this way. And it's happening because it's happening this way and in this fashion, it can no longer be veiled and hid and explained away and rationalized and doubt and misinformation. All of that that's a lie, and that's a lie, and that's a lie, and that's another lie. This is what is going on, beloveds. And this is what Spirit has asked me to address and to share. I've received it. There's so much going on in the world right now, in the family dynamics all over. There's so many constructions, destructions, and reconstructions that are taking place right now. Beloveds, be aware of all of it. Be aware of all of it as a birthing and rebirthing process, as a birth, death, and rebirthing, resurrection, all of this, the retilling of the way Spirit keeps giving this to me is in agricultural terms of turning the old topsoil onto the bottom of the last becomes first and the first becomes last. Is a shifting process, it's a moving process, it's a rotating process, it's an agricultural process. There's nothing new under the sun. You want to know what's going on? This is a reseeding process. This is a new age, so dirt has to be turned over so that these new seeds have new soil to grow in. Is it new soil? No, it's soil that's been from underneath coming back up again to serve. So draw your lines, connect your dots, understand what's being given to you, beloveds, in this form through the not just the words, but the signs, the symbols, the cycles and seasons, and just everything. Okay. Thank you, beloveds. Namaste. I love you, and stay tuned.